Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It is National Bagel Day today, so I thought I would share with you guys a really easy homemade bagel recipe. So here I have my dough that I've already mixed and it has risen. Recipe is here on the left side of your screen. So 4 cups bread flour, a tablespoon of yeast, 1.5 cups warm water, 2 teaspoons of salt, and then 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. You mix it and then you have to knead the dough by hand on a floured work surface for 10 to 15 minutes. I let mine rise for 2 hours. Excuse me. So then the next part of the bagel process is to pinch off pieces of this dough and we're gonna roll them into balls. I just used a palm-sized kind of amount. I would say if you were gonna measure, it's probably about 1/3 of a cup of dough. I have pretty small hands, so I just used the size of my palm. And then I'm just rolling it on the counter, or you could just roll it between your 2 hands and form it into a nice smooth ball. I do need to work on my bagel shaping skills though, as you will see towards the end. Some of them came out kind of deformed, but this was the first time I've tried this. So overall they were okay. They taste fantastic, which is really the most important thing after all. But it is kind of a science trying to get them perfectly round. So from this amount of dough, I got 8 bagels, the size that I rolled them out. And I think that usually is about the amount that comes in a package of them at the store. It's either 6 or 8, so that sounds about right to me. And you're just going to continue to roll these out until you have used up the entire ball of dough. And then we're going to set these off to the side and let them rest for about 30 minutes. So while they are resting, this is what our weather is looking like today here in Missouri. It's kind of a rare sight. I know when I lived in Illinois where I grew up, we used to get snow like up to my shoulders every year. Here it's a pretty rare occurrence. So it was a perfect day to do some baking. So right now we're gonna put some water in a pot. In case that went too fast for you, about 6 to 8 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, and 1 tablespoon of regular white sugar. You're going to dissolve that into this pot, and then we have to bring it to a low boil. And over there to the side, that kitchen towel is actually over top of those bagel dough balls that we rolled out. They have rested for about 35 minutes at this point, and they are good and risen up again. And they will get kind of a like a hard shell on the outside of the dough. It won't be sticky anymore. Also, while you are getting this water boiling, you need to have your oven preheating to 425 degrees. So here is what that dough looks like once it has risen the second time. You'll see on a couple of them they are not perfectly round balls, especially that one there in the center. So now the recipe says to take your finger and poke through the middle of them and then wiggle it around to make a hole. It's really hard because this dough wants to come back in on itself once you poke through it. So I ended up grabbing a, I think it's a meat tenderizer, but I just used the handle from it to try to poke down in there and get it a little better. However, the hole did not stay in my dough. My dough rose back on itself and kind of closed up before I had these completely cooked. So here is where I tried to just use the wooden handle on that meat tenderizer. It did work a little bit better for making the hole. It's just that it did not stay in the dough. I kind of wonder, because I've made homemade donuts before, if it might be better to take like a donut hole cookie cutter sort of thing and just cut out the middle rather than just trying to stretch a hole in the dough. Next time I make these, I'm gonna try that and see how that works. And here I'm just covering my pan to get the water to boil faster. You don't have to have it covered when you're actually boiling the bagels themselves. And then of course I have my strainer scoop, which is what I'm going to use for flipping them and then pulling them out of that boiling water. You want to get as much of the liquid off of them as possible before you put them back onto the cookie sheet. So I'm going to use this wire rack. Another thing that I suggest, some recipes for these call for them to be put on a parchment paper lined cookie sheet. I did not do that because I have made soft pretzels before that called for them to be made that way, and if you take them out of the water like this and put them onto that parchment paper like it tells you, they stick really, really bad to the parchment paper, and I ended up on my pretzels just having to cut the whole bottom of them off because I could not peel the paper off. So for the bagels, I decided to take them out and strain them on the wire rack, and then once they were good and dried, to then put them just on a plain cookie sheet, and it worked out much better. They came right off whenever they came out of the oven. So this was the first round of them. I thought I had my camera rolling for this, ended up not having it on. So all I did was just pick them up with my hands. Since they had that kind of hard film on the outside, my fingers or my nails didn't poke through and deflate them or anything. If you're more comfortable not getting your fingers that close to the boiling water, you could just scoop them up with a spatula and then sit them in. And we are going for everything bagels. So this is the Stone Mill everything bagel seasoning from Aldi. This one is my favorite. This is also really good for a snack, to take celery sticks and put some softened cream cheese in the middle and then sprinkle that everything bagel seasoning on top. I've got my egg wash ready that's going to make that seasoning stick to the bagels. And for that, I mix up 1 egg and 1 tablespoon of water. So you're supposed to cook these for 2 minutes on one side and then flip them and cook them for another 1 minute on the opposite side in the boiling water. And when it comes to flipping these, just like flipping donuts when you're cooking them, the easiest way is to just push down on one side of them and it will automatically pop itself over, rather than trying to pick it up and then flip it and drop it back down into that hot water and then getting splashed. So these are ready to come out. Whenever I pick them up, I just kind of shake the spoon a little bit. I didn't want to smack it on the side of the pan in case that would deflate the bagel dough. So I just kind of gently sort of waved it up and down to get as many drips of water off as I could, and then put it onto that open wire rack so the rest of the liquid could drip off of it. And the dough now, when it comes out of the water, will be sticky. So that hard kind of shell that it got whenever it was rising is gone. And it is actually sticky to the touch if you put your finger on it. Alright, last 2 bagels going in. And then we are going to pop on over to when they are finished. So here they have cooled, all of the water has dripped off, so now they are going to get brushed with that egg wash and then doused in the everything bagel seasoning. You could just leave them plain and put the egg wash on top to help them brown, or you could do whatever flavor you wanted. If you were going to do flavor mixed into the dough, however, like cinnamon raisin or blueberry, those things would need to be added before you actually let your dough rise. So then I'm just going to finish brushing all of these and putting the seasoning on top of them. Let me know if you guys like the everything bagel seasoning from Aldi as much as I do down in the comments below, and what your favorite flavor of bagel is if you eat them. I know one of the weird ones that I actually ended up liking was onion flavored bagels. To me, that didn't really seem like a breakfast flavor. I ended up liking them a lot though. I used them to make sandwiches for my lunches in the afternoon. And the recipe for these did call for them to be baked for 20 to 25 minutes or until they were as brown as you like them to be. I ended up letting mine go only for the 20 minutes, and that was plenty. They turned out nice and golden brown, which you'll see here at the end, but I ended up not having to cook them for that extra 5 minutes. But that really depends on your stove, and also what elevation you're at depends on baking times also. So this is what they are looking like with that egg wash and that everything bagel seasoning before they go into the oven. And even though they are sticky, you can just pick them up with your bare hands like I am here. They did not deflate or anything on me, and they weren't so sticky that they stuck to my fingers or anything. So they're easy to transfer onto that cookie sheet. And I did not grease this pan or anything. It is just a completely plain metal cooking sheet that I'm using. Alright, so in the oven they go, and in 20 minutes we have everything bagel perfection. Or at least almost. If they were perfectly shaped, it would have been better. But for my first time, I think they turned out pretty good. They tasted fantastic. So here they are after 20 minutes. Nice and golden brown. I know sometimes my camera, for some reason, kind of washes out the color on things so they look lighter than they actually are. I think this picked up the browning a little bit better. If you enjoyed this, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to check out more of our videos, and we will see you guys in our next one.